Are you struggling with hip pain? I mean, it's just one of the worst things that can happen sometimes, right? I mean, it can affect you with every step, and it can really keep you from doing the things that you want and need to do. But the good news is that for so many people out there with hip pain, there's a simple solution, and that's postural therapy. Today, we're talking about that from the perspective of Pete Egoscue's book, Pain Free. And we're talking about specifically the menu on page 141, I believe. Yes, page 141 of that book. It's the menu for hip pain. Now, there's another menu regarding hip and pelvis pain, or hip and pelvis rather, but it's just talking about mobility restrictions. If you've only got mobility restrictions in the hip and pelvis, I've got a video coming out for that. You'll be able to check it out in the cards or description down below once I've got that published. It's a great follow-up to this menu as well. So if you've got pain, work on this daily until you get rid of that hip pain, then move into that hip restriction menu. That's a great path, simple path for people who are experiencing hip pain and then consequent hip mobility restrictions. Now, let's get into the list of Ecises in this menu. Now, we've got 10 exercises in this menu, and you've seen some of them before if you've been following my channel for a while, but there's 4 new ones. If you haven't been following, hit that subscribe button and the bell, of course. Now, let's get into these 10 exercises. The first is short foot, the second is hanging, third, cats and dogs, fourth, static back, fifth, hook-lying rocking chair, then unilateral supine femur rotations, that one's a mouthful, 7 is pelvic tilts, 8th, static extension, 9th is cats and dogs, and finally we finish it up with air bench. Now, I'm going to be providing a brief explanation of why we're doing these exercises with some quick tips on the screen, but of course I'll have full video descriptions or full video instructions for all of these exercises individually, linked in the description down below, and as many as I can fit in the cards up above. There's chapters you can skip around if you need to. Be sure to make use of that. Now, let's get into the explanations. First exercise is short foot. This exercise is a great way to mimic the gait process that happens in the toes and the feet and the arch of the foot specifically when we are in that walking motion, and at the same time we are working to start reducing some compensations up through the legs to the hips and the upper body. So of course it's a great place to start when we're talking about hip pain. Now, the only thing you want to really be careful of here is to keep that arch crimped throughout the whole thing, and don't do this too fast. I'll see people going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. You got to slow it down, a full second up, a full second down. So keep that in mind when you're doing short foot. The next exercise is hanging. Now, this is obviously what it looks like, bending down at the waist, trying to touch the toes, but because this is a postural therapy routine, we are paying extra special attention to what's going on with the hips and the pelvis and the buttocks when we're doing this exercise. We don't want that butt moving backwards when we try to bend forward. So if you're having problems with that, go ahead and check out the full video instructions for some tips to reduce that problem. And why are we doing this? Well, it helps obviously lengthen the muscles along the back of the body, which can become a problem in our modern lives when we're sitting at the desk, sitting on the couch, sitting in the car. Just so much sitting with modern life, and those muscles can become really tight. Next is cats and dogs. And I know a lot of people are probably familiar with this exercise, but a lot of people also do it wrong. I'm going to be showing you how to get that sinusoidal wave-like motion from the hips up through the head to propagate the postural changes that we made in the past 2 exercises up through the upper body. And of course, when I say a lot of people do it wrong, we have people just going up and down, up and down, up and down, not this kind of wave-like motion. And if you are doing it wrong, you're going to want to check out that video. Next is static back. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love this stretch or this pose, whatever you want to call it. It's great for relaxing those hip flexors and eliminating compensations in the upper body by using gravity to pull the shoulders and the hips and the pelvis into a neutral horizontal plane. And that's the big reason we're doing this. It also just feels really good. You're going to want to hold this for 5 to 10 minutes. Now, the 5th exercise is hook-lying rocking chair. While this exercise looks pretty easy, if you've got the kind of postural problems that are going to be fixed by this, you'll be surprised by how much load is put by just gently squeezing that block and rocking those ankles back and forth. This is a tandem to the short foot exercise where we were working on the proper toe and foot function in gait. Now we're working on reconnecting the proper ankle motions with gait. Next is unilateral supine femur rotations, and it's a very descriptive name. We are unilaterally rotating one femur at a time while we're laying on our back, and you'll see that we are engaging or improving the range of motion of rotation of the femurs. This is going to bring balance to your hip flexors, up through the pelvis to the lower back, and we are engaging a whole bunch of muscles here and trying to get those femurs pointing in the same direction and operating in a bilaterally equal fashion. Next is pelvic tilts. Now this exercise is pretty simple. We're just rolling that pelvis back and forth through whatever range of motion you have. And in a lot of cases, you might find if you have a posteriorly tilted pelvis, you're going to find that it might be pretty difficult initially to get the pelvis to go into an anterior position, and vice versa. If your pelvis is stuck in an anterior position, it might be difficult to get it to go to a posterior position. This is a great midpoint for this menu because over time, I want you to pay attention to how you're performing in this exercise every day. Pay attention to your range of motion and how it changes in the beneficial direction as you get more range of motion in that pelvis. Next is static extension. Now, as you can see in the video, I do this both on my knees, on my hands and knees, and then on my knees and elbows. And this is a great exercise for reestablishing that natural S-curve of the spine, getting rid of rotation in the spine. And we are, you can see that accentuated curve in the lower back. We have the retraction of the shoulder blades by drooping that lower body. And we are really going to be improving upper body function with this exercise. Next is cats and dogs again. I've already spoken about that. Let's get on to the final one, air bench. And air bench is using the wall to bring the upper body load-bearing joints, being the hips, the shoulders, into a vertical alignment using that wall while we're strengthening the lower body. So we are getting rid of compensations in the upper body, strengthening the lower body. This is a great way to finish up with hip pain. I really hope that you found this video informative and useful. And if you have any loved ones or friends who are having problems with chronic pain, I hope you consider sharing my channel with them as well, because we all want the people we love to have a more pain-free life, right? If you have any questions or video suggestions, anything posture related, drop them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can.